Hello and welcome as we continue this series of videos exploring ways to create well-being for ourselves as highly sensitive people. In our last segment I mentioned that there was a catch, there was a resistance that would often come up and block us from making the changes and transforming our lives. And I called this catch the adrenaline catch. It's also the adrenaline addiction. And I'd like to take a few moments to explore it with you and also suggest some things that can be done. The first thing is to understand is that many highly sensitive people, myself included, were hooked at birth. And how it happens is that when we are exposed to a very rough and chaotic world and are overstimulated, we go into that freeze or overwhelm, and what comes in to rescue us is strong floods of chemicals in our body designed to help us survive when we're under fire, when our life is at risk. One of these is adrenaline. So as we get overstimulated, we're flooded with adrenaline. It feels great. We get through. We're able to act under stress. But it's addictive, it's intense, and later on, when it's no longer necessary, that drug still tugs at us. So that's one way that it comes up. Another is simply that as adults, addicted for so long to adrenaline, we can be dependent on that rush, that speed, that intensity, to provide the motivation to break through our continual overwhelm and freeze that's coming from living in an unhealthy environment. So we're dependent on adrenaline. And finally, it feels good, it feels alive, and so we do it for all these reasons. Exposed to it at birth, addicted, becoming dependent on it for forward motion, and it feels good. Why would we want to give it up? Well, as you, for perhaps the first time, take steps to bring more well-being into your life, what you'll find is that the stimulation that creates the rush of adrenaline that you're addicted to is going to go down. And just like letting go of coffee or cocaine, and in many cases much worse, the shakes can come on, withdrawal symptoms. It's unfamiliar. There's stress of the unfamiliar, not just in the outer environment, not just how do I behave, how do I motivate myself, but there's stress that comes up from the chemical withdrawal of the adrenaline that we're used to injecting by exposing ourselves to a variety of overstimulating and intense and often painful scenarios in our lives. What we do is we divide at this point, because one part of us is working towards this transformation and greater peace, but another part of us is fighting for the drug. And so we actually will move into a situation where it's quite probable that we'll experience some self-sabotage. We actually do regularly experience self-sabotage. Why do I keep doing these things that create these intense, unpleasant scenarios? Why do I get into these intense, weird relationships, or keep doing more than I know that I really can, or push harder? Why do I do that? It's often out of a need, even as we're highly sensitive, to pursue the adrenaline rush. And what this leads to is actually creating crisis that doesn't need to be there. When we're aware of this, and we're aware that this needs to be treated, very much like stopping cocaine or stopping smoking, we can begin with forgiveness. We can take steps to increase the nurturing and healing we offer to one another. We can be compassionate because we're on a drug, an intense drug. And finally, as in any 12-step program, a key part of change is asking for help. And this is one of the reasons that the support groups that Francine and I offer through our Maps to Love website are so important. Is I truly believe that for myself, and having gone through this process, and for many of you as well, that receiving group help and support will be a very powerful ingredient in nurturing change.